Questions?
Talk about your relationship with Freeze. I think he said at the media days that you guys crossed paths, pretty good friends. And have you talked to him a lot? Like, is this a week you don't talk to him, or how's that go?
It's just kind of standard operational procedure. You don't really talk to people during that week. We do sometimes. We've talked a bunch, to the point of since I was the first guy to go during the media days. You know, he called me that night when we got back and said, you know, just give him a little scouting report on that. You know, we're new guys at the meetings, and we've known each other a while. I think, you know, as evidence, the excitement at Ole Miss right now, how they're playing. Nick Saban said it best last week. You know, here's a team that's playing with a lot of energy, plays hard, well coached, and that's indicative of Hugh. You know, he's whether it was in high school or is at Lambeth, Arkansas State, he's won wherever he's been. And you just turn the video on and you can see that this is a well-coached bunch that plays extremely hard and has some good team speed.
When you look back at the video, what has been the biggest difference in your number of penalties over the last couple of games as opposed to the first couple of games, and also, you know, as you had mentioned last year, how heavily penalized this team was? Is it the up-downs on the offense, or after practice, or what? That's what they say.
It may be. I don't know. We're just not making them. So, you know, if you're conscious of what you're doing and you realize that the consequences hurt the team and put us in a poor position. We had Bill Polian was here to speak to our football team, Brian's dad, and an NFL study. Over time, 10 yards of penalties were equal to 1 point. And, you know, to look back at all you got to do is look back at Florida. And if that's the case, then that was about eight or 9 points, which could have been a difference in that football game. So when you start talking to people in terms of what it actually costs, I think guys understand that. And then, you know, it's not okay. And in some situations, we'll deal with it. There's always going to be situations of when a guy's aggressive and it could be a call. But 5-yard penalties are controlled by the players, not the coaches. Pre-snap penalties are controlled by players, not coaches. You're responsible for that, for lining up correctly, jumping off sides, staying on sides, all those things. Coaches coach and players play. But you have a responsibility to everybody to do your job, and that's it. And so, you know, you hold people accountable for those types of things in front of their peers. They start figuring it out.
Coach, when you were putting together your staff and you were looking to fill the D-line position, what did Terry Price, how did he stick out? What was your?
I'd known Terry for a while, but he'd also it was the perfect combination of SEC experience, which he has an abundance of, a former player here at Texas A&M, which he understands our culture, traditions, understands what we're about, and he was a tremendous recruiter. I used to run into him all the time all over the South, and particularly Atlanta. And you know, here's a guy who if you start checking off the boxes for looking for a D-line coach at Texas A&M, it's hard to. All the boxes are checked, and a just a quality human being, a great teacher, and so for us, it became important for him to be here. And
difficult. He was a tech, right? Just
yes,
a little bit, and
yes,
that difficult. Was tough, real.
What do you think? He'd only been there for a couple of days.
Yeah. This is part of
yeah.
the
It helped. It helped that the day that we were really serious about it, it was snowing in Lubbock. That didn't hurt us.
Coach, where is this program 4 games in compared to where you maybe thought it would be going into the season? Is it?
I think we're right about where we thought we'd be.
Do you think that should be in the top 25?
I don't vote. I gave up my vote a year ago because of that. Doesn't matter what I think.
Well, what more do you think you
And it
guys
really doesn't matter where you are unless it's the end of the year. So, this is the first year as a head coach. I'm not a voter.
What will you guys do to kind of gain that respect?
Keep winning.
Do you think you feel like you guys have made the biggest strides on the field?
I think just what you're talking about. I think that we've been preaching and we're trying to be consistent in what we do. It's hard to say that we are because we're only 4 games in. But I've been pleased with. I think we've improved every week. Everybody's always waiting for the other shoe to drop around here. So what I think we've gotten better every week. I think the things that we've talked about from day one, reducing penalties and turnover margin, our guys are listening. And those are the 2 biggest things that we came in this year trying to accomplish, and keeping the effort and intensity up. So from that standpoint, not just a general scheme and just generally speaking, those 3 areas are probably our biggest improvements. But like I said, we're only 4 games into the season. So the key to college football and being a championship level football team is consistency. And there's a lot of teams that can play good for 3 hours one week. And there's a lot of people that say that you don't have to be the best team that year. You got to be the best team for that 3 hours. But what about the 3 hours the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that? So, that's the hard part, particularly with young guys that are going to class and got this time of year with midterms. They've got all kinds of stuff going on. So, the ability to keep focused and maintain a certain level of play, that takes maturity.
How much is it that Marcel had a good game and kind of his role in that offense as you guys go along? How critical is his role there?
It all works hand in hand. It's not like he hasn't been open. And the key to him was to keep playing and keep working and let our offense progress from pass protection to our quarterback being able to see it, to feeling comfortable in the pocket. So that was a good thing to see. We got the ball down the field last week. So, that should help us offensively. But, I don't know that it's going to change people's schemes defensively that much more. You got to do it more than once for people to really think you've got something.
How nice is it to have interchangeable parts in your secondary? And is that just the evolution of the game? Because when I first started covering, you could really tell a difference between a safety and a cornerback physically, but not so much anymore.
Well, there's a bunch of teams you can still see the difference. Maybe that's an issue. I think we're doing, not to avoid your question, but I think our staff's doing a good job with the pieces that we have. And we've got some quality pieces, we just don't have a lot of them. So I think Marcel Yates and our defensive staff, either from the front end to the back end, have moved some guys around and made things work. And DeShazer has been a big part of that, being able to do that. I told you a couple of weeks ago, you're playing different styles of offenses. And, if we learned anything from that first game, certain offenses are going to block everybody, try to block everybody, and make your corners tackle. Other offenses, you look at what Arkansas did to us early. They got in the plan of they got in, put a fullback in there and a couple of tight ends and at least one tight end. They were going to run it right at us and make us and make people tackle on the perimeter. Either right at us or on the perimeter, and then throw it deep. So. You get a feel for different games, but there's no doubt the more that you can play with interchangeable parts, the harder it is on an offense to see what's going on. If you run your corners across the field all the time and line up, and it tells people that you play man-to-man, they got coaches too. And we're in a league with some really, really good coaches. So the more interchangeable parts you have and guys that just aren't cover guys or guys that just aren't box guys, I think the better off our defense can be.
How's Stephen Campbell doing?
He still hasn't practiced.
Kevin, what's your philosophy on trying
Which
to...
is another reason we probably have interchangeable parts. We don't have any choice. So, like I said, I think that says something about the job that Mark Snyder and Marcel Yates are doing, based on freshmen, based on moving DeShazer around, Stephen Terrell being really the only true safety back there, and then with Jacobs and Harris, moving around. We had a situation where you get a guy with an ankle or a quick anything happens to him, then Tony Hurd becomes another guy that's moving around. He's playing nickel, but now he's playing safety. So, the coaching that goes on during the week is important, particularly when you're a multi-formation team like this team we're going to play or the team we saw last week. It's not like you just line up with two safeties and two corners and everybody's going to give you. They're going to motion, they're going to trade, they're going to put four guys over here, five, and the adjustments that are made there, that's where the real coaching comes into play. And like I said, I think our guys have done a pretty good job of that so far.
How impressed have you been with the ability of your receivers to block downfield, and how big of an emphasis was that early on?
That's been a huge emphasis. I think David Beatty's done an excellent job of that. I know that the program I just came from was known for throwing it all over the place, but those guys did a tremendous job. That's just part of this offense. And, guys understand or have understood, maybe they didn't understand in the spring, but they understand that, if you don't block, you don't play here at any position on offense. And that's whether you're a receiver, whether you're a running back, whether you're a lineman. And the rewards of that are big. That's team football. It's how you play without the ball that defines you. We'll point that out positively and negatively to the team. If that's your job. And you never know when a 15-yard or 8-yard run can be an 80-yard run. So you need to take care of that business on the perimeter, and then you get rewarded, with things down the road. Because if we're able to run the football and do those types of things, obviously, in order to stop it, you guys start figuring it out. You start bringing more people into the box. It's less people for you to worry about to get open. So that's all part of it. But, as an offense, whether you throw it or run it, you still need to be physical. And our guys understand that.
Hey, Kevin, as somebody who has groomed quarterbacks, have you noticed there's been more younger quarterbacks who have succeeded on a high level? Johnny's succeeding. You can go back maybe 5-6 years and see it around the country. Is it quarterbacks are better prepared in high school? Is kind of offenses the teams are running now that they're a better fit? I mean, do you have a reason why that this isn't as much of an aberration?
You see a lot of points. You see a lot of spread offenses now. There's people running them. 7-on-7 has had a lot to do with that. And it's not just the quarterbacks, it's receivers too. The ability to come into a program. The two biggest changes in football, in my opinion, for offensive football have been 7-on-7 in high schools growing, and the summer bridge program, which allows freshmen to come immediately after graduation. Instead of them coming in the old days, my dad drove up and, he went into the dorm and practice started the next day and they hand you a playbook. You don't know what's going on. Now you get kids in here in June and they have the ability to go through, off-season workouts with Larry Jackson. Basically 7 weeks between June and July, the start of practice in August. So their conditioning level's higher. And most schools, the quarterbacks and the receivers organize 7-on-7s for their team during the summer. So the kid is acclimated to what's going on. When you get to 2-a-day practice, nowadays in college football, there is no time wasted on getting people in shape. They're in shape. They're in shape, and if you are, you're wasting your time. So, they're in shape. They know the players. They have an idea of the scheme. And so young guys are able to play across the board at all positions in the country because of the Summer Bridge program. But to answer your question, I think 7-on-7 has had a huge impact, and the number of coaches that are throwing the football in high school. You know, that's just the way it is now, and there's a lot of really good coaches all over the country, and particularly in this state, that do a great job with it. You've seen a number of these guys. A lot of coaches move on to be pretty good head coaches and coordinators at Division I levels. You know, and basically running the same offense that they ran at certain high schools. I got to be careful because of recruiting, but you guys all know who I'm talking about. So I mean, that's you can't ignore that.
Coach, how good of a job has Johnny done as his legend has grown and just kind of maintaining focused on the task at hand?
Based on results, it's been pretty good.
Yeah.
So
Between games, what have you seen?
you see him getting better, you know. So he's, you know, that's all part of it. And like I said, you know, as a young guy, you have to handle success at all positions, more so at quarterback. I've said it before. It's like me. You get way too much credit when you win. You get all the blame when you lose. That's part of it. And when you figure that out, how to deal with it, dealing with that as a quarterback is important. And that comes through experience. So, you know, I think the thing that he's doing right now is I think he wants to be really, really good. Not just a guy that's, you know, playing and doing some things, but I think he wants to develop into, in fact, I know he does because we've had this conversation, into a complete quarterback. And in order to do that, you've got to be very, very honest and critical with yourself about your limitations and your strengths. And that takes time. And I'm not talking about 4 days from game to game. That takes a long time. And, you know, you've got to realize that small steps are important. Not going backwards is important. And being able to move forward in your mechanics and your knowledge of the game, film study, all the things that you have to work on daily as a quarterback, mechanically and film study. You know, that at this juncture and for the rest of his life to continue to improve, you know, that's a daily routine.
Kevin, on the, at some places, you know, you might see a certain amount of resentment from older players when a freshman gets a lot of attention like Johnny's getting, but you don't see that. It don't seem to. That doesn't seem
I would
to be
say
an
that
issue.
a place, not to cut you off, places that win, I've never seen that.
I was just going to ask you why you think perhaps that's not an issue here.
Well, places that win, in a culture of the best players that play, that's you don't have that issue, you know. So our guys understand through competition and practice, and based on how things are done in an open setting, as far as our team goes, that you know, we watch a lot of film and video together. We critique each other together. We point out pluses and minuses together, and because of that, there's no, you know, it's just been my experience. It's how I've always done things, that we haven't had that issue. You know, and guys understand whether you've been here 5 years or 5 days, if you can execute what we're asking you to do with effort, and we can trust you, then you're going to go on the field, whether you're on scholarship or not. So if you operate that way all the time, I think players respect it, and I think it eliminates a lot of the problems that you're talking about.
What are your impressions of Bo Wallace?
You know, he's a tough guy. He's a bigger guy than I thought. You know, it's always amazing. You get a couple of pictures, glimpses on television. You know, and we've been so busy in what we're doing. I saw a little bit of Texas a couple weeks ago. Texas and Ole Miss, and you know, and you saw him. I just saw him running around, and then you know, during looking at film study this week, he's a little bit bigger guy than I thought he was. So no wonder he's throwing it around in there. He's a guy that won't hesitate to run it. Has taken some shots, but we'll see. I tell you, I've been impressed with their team speed. I think you look at what they do offensively. What are they, 23rd in the country in rushing the football? They've played 2 top 10 teams. Inside of that, do pretty good defenses from what I've seen on video and from what everybody else has seen. And they've been able to score points on everybody. Move the football. Last week they played 3 different guys back there at quarterback. I think they've done a nice job. Jeff Scott is fast, and anybody can run away from Alabama and Texas. They're pretty fast. So you got a kickoff return for 100 yards against Texas. They got some guys that get the ball on the perimeter. They do a great job offensively in their schemes to get you spread out and split you with some guys that are home run hitters and a big-time wideout threat in Moncrief on the perimeter. So they've got some weapons. They got a great scheme. And just like I said to start this, I think, Nick said it best, after the game as an ultimate compliment, that they play really hard and they got great schemes. And they're tough to defend. So, we got our work cut out from us. I think the biggest difference for them is looking at them was just the combination of their scheme with their team speed, because seeing the last couple of teams they've been on the field with, they can run, and they don't have any problems handling that.
Coach, I noticed Molina's spot on the depth chart. Has he solidified that spot, or is it a game-by-game basis?
It's like anybody else's position. It's game by game.
Coach, with all the media scrutiny before the season, with it being your offense in the SEC working, you were called pass happy. It was called the passing ratio was 70-30, and you said you would like them to think that, and then it's really more like 55-45. And with Johnny averaging about per game 60-40 right now, how important is that to show, or from a recruiting standpoint?
I don't know. I think good players understand their value in any system, and that a system can be improved with them being in it. And I think there's no doubt with what we do right now. I think across the board right now, guys are excited to play in the system. So we're going to play a number of running backs. We're going to play a number of receivers, and I think everybody understands they're going to get to touch the ball, and that has never been a problem for us. I think defensively in the scheme that we've used, we say we're a 4-down team, but I think you've seen us play every defensive front known to mankind in the first 4 weeks. So whether you're a linebacker, whether you're a DB, there's a place for you here based on what we're doing. We're not plugging people into a certain system. We're trying to find fits for the guys that we have, and I think just our response in recruiting, people understand that. They understand where we want to be, and the more talented we are, the more flexible we can be with across the board. So I don't know that run-pass ratio has anything to do with that.
What's your philosophy on playing your backup quarterbacks? I've noticed you've been pretty intentional about trying to get those guys some pretty good time in the games, which you could.
Yep, you never know when it's like backup players. You never know, when a guy's going to have to play meaningful minutes. So the more that you can get him out there and not disrupt the flow of the starter of the game, the better off you are. That's why we play all those guys. And we've been real fortunate the last couple of weeks to play a lot of people and be able to evaluate them. And, there's one thing to talk about people in practice, but there's another thing on Monday when we sit in there as a team or as a defensive unit, offensive unit, or as a linebacker unit, and you get a grade sheet that has the same grade sheet as Sean Porter does. And as in relationship to what you were just asking me about, that also answers those questions of why you're not playing and somebody else is. So, you know, that's just kind of how we do things, and the ability for you to go in the game and perform, you know, and without coaches around you, know what you're doing, execute what we ask you to do. I think you can't put a price on that. And, you know, football is a funny game. You know, you get down to the end of the year, I said before the season, you know, you sit around in here and you'll look in our team meeting, there's going to be 2 or 3 guys in here that a bunch of you seniors don't even know their name, that we're going to be dependent on to win football games weeks 7 through 12. And it's that way every year. You don't know who that is at the beginning of fall camp. Everybody thinks they know who that is, but you know, there'll be a number of guys. If you know, nobody in this room would have thought that Julian Obioha would have started 4 games already this year from day one, and he's playing very well right now. So there's always those guys, and that's why the backup guys that aren't in there, you know, you got to keep them coming. And then, and to answer your question too, that's why we evaluate guys every week.
Is Bertolet, is it just a matter of getting him more playing time, more comfortable since he has?
No, that was his first real. Yeah, he was a little nicked up last week. You know, he had a little ankle problem, didn't practice for a couple 3 days, and you know, I think that showed Saturday. So you know, it's like anything else. You know, the lesson is if you don't practice, you probably don't perform at your best, even if you're a kicker. But we've got a lot of confidence in him, and you know, he gutted it out. If you had seen his ankle earlier in the week, there was a time when we didn't even think he was going to play. You take that. Excuse me? I don't know. And if I did, I wouldn't tell you. But you're lucky you're getting this part out of it. But you know, you take that, it became an accuracy issue. His kickoffs were strong, you know, into the wind and all day with a bunch of touchbacks. We had 2 out of there. We kicked off, 10 times, and he had, 2 returns, something like that, the opening kickoff, and maybe another one, and then we squibbed one, put one on the ground. So, you know, the strength was there. It's just he was a little nicked up. We'll work through that. But he's been fabulous all year, except for Saturday, and there's probably a little reason for that.
You've been on the road to SMU, of course, but any enhanced preparation just going on the road for the first SEC game?
No.
How far down the road are you guys thinking versus reacting? Where they're not having to think about the schemes anymore, they can just plug in and go?
I don't know, to be honest with you. You have to ask the players. You know what I mean? It's hard to tell. I know that we did some things last week for the first time. I see things for the first time every week, which is natural. I mean, we're growing as a team, and like I said, consistency will be the key. And if we keep our effort up and continue to do those things with and our consistency and preparation too, I think that's a big deal too. So guys are used to the pace, but yeah, I'm not sure that I can answer that.
How valuable have the play your 2 tackles, Jokel and Matthews, been?
Been good. You know, the whole line has really taken steps. You know, there's a lot of things going on up there for them in a new offense, and they're seeing some different looks based on, you know, our different formations and based on Johnny too, what he's done. So, you know, everything works hand in hand, and they made some strides last week with their front. The week before, so we'll see. You know, we got to. It's as I said earlier. You know, it's not just the quarterback that's in a growth process. The whole offense is in a growth process, and understanding, you know, what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. where we're trying to run the ball when we're trying to run it, and in pass protection, the different blitzes that you're going to see based on formation and the experience that's involved in that. So, that's been a learning experience for them. But I think they're just like the rest of the football team. They're continuing to get better themselves. Not that they weren't good at the beginning. I think the whole idea there is we talked about it at our last place, Sam, is you want the O-line to operate like a nickel, not 5 pennies. And with that, I mean they've got to be a unit, and they got to think alike based on what they see in front of them. One guy can screw the whole thing up. So it just takes one missed block to get a negative yardage play. And I think we've cut down on negative yardage plays last week. We need to continue to reduce those.
Anything else? All right, Coach.
All right, thanks.